Welcome to Full Court Tennis Advantage. I'm Brian Teacher, Australian Open champion, former world number 7 in singles, and founder of the Full Court Tennis app. Today, we're talking about a part of the game that used to define champions, and that is the transition game and coming to the net. From McEnroe to Federer, this skill shaped legends. Now it's nearly vanished, and it's time we bring it back. In the 70s and early 80s, when I was playing the game, it revolved around getting to the net. Serve and volley wasn't just a tactic, it was a necessity. Wooden rackets, faster court surfaces, and lighter balls meant there wasn't much power coming off the ground. So, you couldn't afford to sit back and rally from the baseline all day. Players like McEnroe, Edberg, and Cash built their games on quick reflexes, sharp court positioning, and volleys with touch, power, and angle. They'd cut the court down, take time away, and force errors, or finish it outright. I based my own success on moving forward, taking the ball early, attacking short balls, and using my overhead and volley skills. It wasn't uncommon in those days to see players come into net 50, even 60 times a match. The entire rhythm of the game was different. Players expected to finish the points off at the net. The game started to change, and it began with technology. I won the Australian Open in '81 using the Black Ace, the first mid-sized graphite racket. Back then, the Prince racket had just come on the market. It was an oversized frame with composite materials that allowed for a bigger sweet spot and more power. Suddenly, players could penetrate heavy balls from deep in the court. And in the 90s, guys like Agassi and Chang, they started to dominate from the backcourt, and the serve and volley started declining. Even though Sampras still at that time came in behind his big serve, but the majority of players began staying back. Net approaches dropped 10 to 20 per match for most guys on tour. And the coaches started adjusting because they saw it in the pro game. So they taught consistently more baseline play, more grinding, more big serve and big forehand combinations, and volleying and approaching became rare. I remember going to Carson and watching a junior clinic run by Jose Higueras, who was head of development at USDA Center at Carson. And, I was watching, and not one kid came to the net the entire time. And I asked Jose, I said, Jose, what's going on? Nobody's coming to net. You're not hitting any volleys with the kids. He says, nobody comes to net anymore, Brian. Have you watched Federer play? He's not coming into net. And it was kind of true that Federer stopped coming into net in the mid-2000s. The transition game had gone the way of the dodo bird, nearly extinct. When Roger Federer first arrived, however, he came to net often. He famously beat Sampras at Wimbledon in 2001 with a fearless attacking game. Back then, however, the grass was faster, lower bouncing. But as the court slowed and the string technology improved, allowing for more speed and spin, along with the composite rackets, players could start dictating more from behind the baseline. So Federer's game evolved, and he started staying back more. And he met Nadal, and Nadal started dominating him, especially with his lefty forehand into Federer's one-handed backhand. So between 2010 and 2015, Federer played Nadal 10 times, and he lost 8 of them. So, he definitely needed a shift, right? That's when he brought in Federer and Edberg as his coach in 2014. So they worked on reintroducing the transition game, the sneak attack, they called it, coming in off returns, attacking early in the point, and mixing up serve and volleying a little bit more. So Federer openly said at that time, players need to come to the net more. And the impact on his game was huge. From 2015 to 2019, he played Nadal 6 times and won 5 of those matches, which was a near total reversal. And this wasn't a young Federer at this time because he was already 34 years old, really past his prime. And Nadal was really in his prime at 29. Yet Roger flipped the rivalry and reinventing himself mid-career. Federer often won 60 to 75% of his net points during this time. That's a staggering success rate and a testament to how refined and impactful net play can still be when executed correctly. Since the 2000s, the game has become more physical. Courts have slowed down, players got fitter and stronger, rackets got more powerful, and bigger, and the strings got more elastic with more spin and more torque you could put on it. And so most players camp out on the baseline today, but that doesn't mean the net game is gone. It's just underutilized. Carlos Alcaraz proved this in Wimbledon 2023. He came to net over 60 times in his 5-set final against Djokovic, and he won 66% of those points. Okay, so that's not just talent, that's timing, tactics, and trusting in your skills. So let's contrast that with what college tennis players are doing today, because that's the problem in U.S. tennis today, is that players aren't learning how to volley properly and are coming to net enough. So a tennis analytics study of over 2,000 Division I matches showed that match winners averaged 14.6 net points won per match, with only 54% success. So losers were down at 46%. So they're coming into net about 27 times total and barely winning half. Now look at the pros. ATP players win around 67% of the net points. Even WTA players win around 62%. Back in the 80s and 90s, that number was 65 to 69%. That tells us something. It's not that the net doesn't work, it's that players aren't trained to do it right. Why did coaches abandon the net game? Well, with players crushing passing shots from both wings, many coaches in the juniors and college just gave up with teaching the volley. They figured, why teach something your players are not going to use? If you don't teach volley, split steps, or approach footwork, you're leaving a huge part of the game untapped. You're raising one-dimensional players who rely on grinding and power with no variation or versatility. Net skills need dedicated reps. Ideally, you got to play 20% of court time should be focused on volleying. And it's not the same as ground strokes. You got to be explosive, reactive, and light on your feet, reading the play like a predator. You're half the distance from your opponent now, so you only need to punch and block or redirect. You're not swinging, right? Great volleying starts with a stable base. Your legs have to be engaged, light on your feet, racket head set early, and minimal motion. It's really about timing, control, and precision. That can't be improvised. It has to be drilled and trained. So how do you train for the transition game? Well, to get better at net, you got to build instincts. That means not just hitting volleys in isolation, but practicing them in transition. Why don't you try and start with this drill, which is just rally with your partner until one of you feeds a short ball, then approach the line. Don't approach cross court unless it's a sure winner. The goal isn't to end the point, it's to apply pressure and not miss the approach shot to set up the volley. Stay in motion, don't stop and plant, flow through the shot. On the forehand for righty, you just step out with the right foot, you give a little pivot with your torso, load your swing, and move right through it. And the same on the backhand, the left foot out, little pivot, and just move right through it. Don't stop to hit the ball. And you're trying to hit deep shots. Make 10 out of 10, right? Get your weight through the shots and keep your momentum going forward. One of the best drills I used in my own training was 2-on-1 with me at the net and two players in the baseline. Their job was to move me around at net, hit lobs over my head, make me scramble, challenge my balance, and my job was to punch through, try and penetrate through the court, cover the angles, and learn to hit smash winners to get control of the point. It's exhausting, but it builds reactive movement, footwork, and timing. You don't swing at the net, you punch using your legs to get through the ball to gain power. You know, we've lost something in the modern game, but it's not too late. Net play is still a powerful weapon. Federer proved it, Alcaraz is proving it, and juniors who learn it today will be miles ahead of the competition. If you're a coach or a parent, encourage net training. Build footwork, approach patterns, and volley technique. Study Federer, Edberg, and even McEnroe. Use video tools, right? And if you want help, the Full Court Tennis app makes it easy to upload match footage, tag transition moments, and get expert feedback from world-class coaches around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brian Teacher, and this is Full Court Tennis Advantage. Let's bring back the transition game, and I'll see you at the net.